To put a battery in this camera, first thing you need to do is lift this eyepiece to give yourself enough room to get the battery in. It fits right in this, this little compartment here. So you just basically push the battery in and then push it down. The contacts of the battery go down. You can see there's an arrow that points to that. If you want to get the battery out again, then you just push this button that says push on it and then just flick the battery out. So again, to put the battery in, lift the eyepiece, push the battery against the compartment and then push it down. To turn the camera on, you simply turn this collar, push the little white button, turn the collar into the on position. To get a tape in, again, and this is typical of Panasonic, what you're going to do is you're going to push the blue button here. It's going to open the door. You have to manually open the door a little bit more. The tape carriage comes up. Now you're ready to put the tape in. And of course, remember that the window goes to the outside and the arrow of the tape points down. So you put that in the tape carriage slowly but surely. Make sure that it goes in nicely. You don't have to jam it. If you have to push it, something's wrong. So take your time and do it nice and slowly. Then you push the tape carriage, or push the door against the tape carriage. The tape carriage goes down. Then you push the door again, and the tape is in, and you're ready to go. The viewfinder is pretty straightforward. Of course, there is an LCD panel that you can use, as always. And I'm fine with you using LCD panels. There's nothing wrong with it. There are so many options available on it. You can see lots of stuff. So LCD panels are fine, except for, remember, there are two situations where an LCD panel doesn't work well. The first is in bright sunlight. Sometimes you just can't see it. But the second situation is when you're losing power. LCD panels take power. So if you're starting to run out of battery power, sometimes it's wise just to shut the LCD panel and use the optical viewfinder. To shoot in auto mode, then you just press the auto button here right at the front of the camera. And then when you look in your viewfinder, you'll see that there is an indication that says A on it. Let's see if I can do that here. And there you are. There's your A right up there. So we're now on automatic. White balance, the first thing you have to do is choose the scene. You can choose preset if you're working here in the studio under 3200 degree Kelvin lights. But generally you're going to choose either A or B. Once you've chosen the scene, then, and you can leave the camera on automatic to do this, by the way, then what you want to do is fill up the screen with something white. I'm going to use Dolores here. So you fill up the screen with something white. In other words, zoom all the way in. That's as close as I can get to Dolores. And so what I'm going to do here is press the button that's underneath the lens right here. It's called ATW. So I'm going to press the ATW button to see if I can actually get this thing to white balance. And it gave me a white balance is active and OK. So that means we're ready to go here. In order to adjust the iris, or the aperture, the first thing you have to do is press this iris button. Now this dial beside controls the iris. So if you want to let more light in, you roll the dial down. If you want to let less light in, you roll the dial up. The second part to using the iris effectively is judging where the iris should be, how far open it should be, and you use zebra bars for that. It's very hard for you to tell right at the moment just because of the way the light is shining, but if you're lucky, you can see on Dolores that there are a series of cross-hatch lines going across about half of her face. These are called zebra bars. Zebra bars are what you use to determine whether you've got the right aperture or not. And generally, the rule with zebra bars is you just want to see a little bit of zebra bars. If you see too much, then you're really going to have problems. So what I'm going to do here is just lower the iris, in other words, present less light, and I do that by rolling it up. And now I've got a couple of spots of zebra bars on Dolores. I've got one on her forehead here, and a couple down in here, and then one on her neck. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. In order to manually focus, you just push this down into M position. You're going to adjust this ring in order to get the picture nice and crisp and clean looking. Next, what you need to do is zoom in all the way on the object that you want to have in focus, and then adjust the dial until it's in focus. and then choose the framing, and no matter what framing you choose, that particular object is always going to be in focus. This is really important and a must if you're going to start using depth of field as an effect. Most of our microphones are not phantom powered microphones. In other words, most of our microphones do not need extra power. So most of the time when you're using our microphones, all of these switches should be off. However, if you're going to use the Sony shotgun microphone, it does need phantom power, so you'll put that in the on position. The next set of switches are the channel select switches. If you're going to use camera mic, put them in the upper position. This will give you a camera microphone. If you're going to do an interview, then what I want you to do is for channel 2 select, I want you to put this switch on input 2. And then for channel 1 select, I also want you to put that on input 2. This means that you're going to get interview audio out of both channels. The other thing to consider is what to do with these switches here. These are the pots that control the amount of audio that come in. And frankly, the safest, easiest thing to do is just to put it on 12 o'clock like they are right at the moment, and decide what happens from there. If it looks too loud, then you can bring it down. If it's too soft, then you can bring it up. But the 12 o'clock position is a good position to start from. The next thing is actually hooking up an external microphone. Here's input 1 and here's input 2. There's some switches on the other side here, and these switches should always be in the mic position. All you really need to do is hook your microphone into input 2 here. You know that you have to put color bars on the beginning of every tape, at least the first 30 seconds. And also, if you're going to put more than one shoot on a tape, it's a good idea to put some color bars in between. We don't have a button that just says color bars, so what you use is the user 1 button. You push this, you're going to get color bars. Gain is an important thing to be aware of. Gain is the opposite of the aperture. The aperture controls the amount of light that comes into the camera. The gain, on the other hand, controls the amount of electrical video signal coming out of the camera. The standard position is in L. However, if you're in a low light situation and you want to get more light coming out of your camera, more video signal, then you put it in the M position. And if it's extremely dark out there, then you put it in the H position. The one problem that you have to remember with gain is that every time you add gain, you're actually adding grain as well. So you don't use gain unless you absolutely have to. Try to keep it in the standard position of L. The other button that's important here is the neutral density filter. Whenever you're shooting outdoors, basically you have to put a neutral density filter on. So in order to do that, the most straightforward one is 1/8. If it's an extremely bright day, you may want to go up to 1/64. Just a warning, make sure you put the neutral density filter on that you need before you do your white balance. There are some important switches here at the back as well that we haven't discussed yet. One is shutter. If you want to use a shutter, you just push this button and you can select the speed. In other words, you can make the shutter faster or slower. Remember that when you're using shutter, you need more light than you normally would coming into the camera. The other switch that's important here is the zebra bar switch. If you turn your camera on, you find out that there are no zebra bars showing. By all means, push this button to make sure that you do have zebra bars.